Happy Sunday, everyone. I'm so excited about this week's show. Not that I'm not excited about every other show. This one's very personal. Olivia, I consider her my sister, member of my family, and she is going to be coming on to talk to us about biomechanics. We have a long history together. This is going to be a very interesting show. I also just want you guys to know you're going to leave with the information that you need to basically not jack up your fascia through your movement. So this is a huge part of fasciology. It's a huge part of my program and my understanding. So let me try to bring her on. I'm really having PTSD from my whole day of trying to make this stuff work, but I'm feeling positive about it. All right, Olivia, I have turned on guest request. So as soon as you pop on, then I can accept you into the group. I'm not sure that she knows that she is supposed to actually look at the live feed. So I'm gonna shoot her a text really quick, you guys. Hang on, it'll be worth it, I promise. All say hi to each other. I don't think I can get out. Hang on, we're coming. Okay, that's amazing that I can send a text and not lose the group. Hi, Julie Chelberg. We did a live feed today in the fascia yoga. So Olivia's texting me, one moment, I can't find it. Come on, girl, you're the technology young person in this duo here. It's on the Ashley Black Guru page. Anyone that has Olivia's number, text her and tell her it's on the main page. It should be easy to find. So before we even go into this, eventually she'll figure it out. She's highly technically advanced. I can give you a little bit of history about biomechanics because that's really where I got my start, way before fascia. You know, back in the old school days when I was in college, I used to work at a gym called CAS. So any of my Auburnites out there, you know, the guy who owned it became the strongest man in the world. And, you know, being around all of those bodybuilders and strong men, I learned that it's not just about, you know, throwing weight around. It's all about how you do it and how you leverage your body. So even back in college, before I even had a clue that this was going to be my career, you know, I was already learning those mechanics. So that parlayed into becoming a fitness instructor forever. And, you know, what I discovered was that when I wanted people who were my clients to have great posture and good, you know, muscle firing patterns and all of that, is that sometimes they were physically restricted and couldn't do it. And that was the first time that I was really introduced to body work through a chiropractor in my local town. And I went to my first stretch training, and Olivia's like, how do I join? And first tissue training, and then I was off to the races. Let me see if I can invite you in. There's a little button, Olivia, at the bottom of the feed that looks like a person with like a little photo next to them. I can't add her. She's not in my list, Emily. Hang tight, guys. Like I said, it's going to be worth it. Ah, there we go. Well, somebody else just tried to join. Nope, I'm getting guest requests, but it's not you, Olivia. Still waiting, hang tight. We can do it together. Now, if it was me and Julie Chelberg, it might not happen. Hey, there's Olivia Henry. Okay, I saw your request, but now I don't see you in the guest request. Ah, there we go. Virtual high.
That was really hard for me. Hi. Hi, everybody. I have my screen horizontal. That's what it's supposed to be, right?
So can someone give us a thumbs up if we did it? And then Olivia, do you have your earbuds in because we're reverberating?
I can in a moment.
I can't hear you. Everyone is saying hello, I cannot hear you and it's reverberating.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great. I mean, I'll have to take these out when we show stuff and whatnot, but hi,
Okay,
everyone.
are you in a good internet place? Because
I am.
And it's still a little shaky.
Still a little shaky?
That's okay.
Yeah,
you know what? We've done this before. We'll wing it.
Okay. So I have my screen horizontal, but I can't see anyone's comments. Is that normal?
That's okay. I'll read the comments to us.
Sounds good. Okay. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all again. It's been a little while since I've been on here.
For those of you who don't know Olivia, you probably actually do if you have my book, because the beautiful model in my book is Olivia.
It's
and
me.
As I was putting our show together, Olivia, I remember the day that we talked about this, because I was going to do the modeling, and I was like, I need to have somebody with absolutely perfect biomechanics that I can check. And I was like, I only know one person in the whole world with perfect biomechanics.
That's very kind. I also, guys, just for the record, have scoliosis and have had joint issues my entire life. So, you know, it's as close to what we would want for perfect with an injured and you know, a body that has dealt with chronic illness. So, but yeah, I appreciate that. That makes me feel good, because I've worked real hard.
That I have perfect biomechanics as well, but like within the framework of what we're capable of, right?
Sure, absolutely. And you always have to, it's to each individual, is their own, has their own experience, and to each their own. Right. So, and that's what your book is about anyway. It's about finding the what's perfect for you and your body, and how to find the best way to achieve your goals, knowing your body and your either limitations or the things that you have goals for. And that's what I love about your book so much.
You're such a mini me.
Ah.
I feel like I'm talking to myself.
Right.
Okay, so they're saying we're fading in and out. I don't know what I could do different. I think it takes more internet to share the screen, but we're going to go with it. And if literally no one can hear, you guys drop it in the comments and we'll try to reconnect. But I have a strong signal, and Olivia does too.
I do too.
Yeah, I don't know. Come on, Facebook.
I know, right?
Olivia, let's jump right in. I really want people to understand the history. So take us back to pre-Ashley and childhood, and talk a little bit about, kind of your hopes and dreams and where your trajectory went up until your injury.
Wow. Well, I was a performer my whole life. I mean, I started kind of with gymnastics, actually. I was always singing. I always sang. But I started with gymnastics, which led me into dance. But I had chronic injuries from, I mean, by the time I was 13 years old, I had 5 different broken bones. I had dislocations. Nobody could really figure it out. And my parents, just listened to the doctors, as any good parent would. And they didn't really say anything. They just said, whoops, I guess it was just an accident or something. Nobody really understood. I remember the first time I had a migraine, I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And I also had all this pain in my thoracic spine all the time. The doctors knew that I had slight scoliosis, but they said that shouldn't cause me a whole lot of pain, of course. And so that's how I grew up. And then I grew up professionally and competitively dancing while I was still doing music and studying vocals through opera. and classical music and all of that, as well as acting. I just was a performer my whole life. That's all I wanted to do. That from the jump, from the point that I could walk, I was doing shows and taking my parents', video camera and making things, and that was all I wanted to do with my life. And I went to Cal Arts.
Remember when I texted you the very first time I saw Glee and they were introducing that character where she like tap danced? I was like, oh my God, that's so Olivia when she was little.
Sure. Yeah. That it was me. I was a born performer, and so I went to conservatory. I went to Cal Arts for that, and that's when I had my first big injury, where I basically fully ruptured the 3 discs in my lower back, L3, L4, L4, L5, and L5 S1. They exploded while I was breakdancing.
That's
which
a huge
is
injury, by the way. Like, if people don't know, I mean, most of the time you would have just been rushed into surgery and probably had a cage put in. I mean, that's pretty standard. So it was actually very brave and probably a really big family decision to not have
surgery. Yeah. I had some pretty premier doctors at Cedars-Sinai, and I live in Los Angeles, and they were, big surgeons for the spine. And at 18 years old, they told me that I would, have a limp probably for the rest of my life, and not be able to dance again for sure. And I would definitely need the surgery. There was no question in their mind that I needed surgery and I needed to fuse my back. I didn't want to. I just said no. And my mom wasn't sure, she was trying to be supportive of me in my decision, but it's hard to go against the grain.
Yeah.
And it isn't the right decision for everybody, but it was the right decision for me.
Yeah.
And because I knew that I wanted to fight to have my body back. And I knew that if I did that, I would never perform the way that I wanted to again.
Right.
So I didn't do that. And I went on my own journey, and it really took me away from music and it took me away from performing. But I started studying, and I started studying kinesiology, and I started studying yoga, and then I became a Pilates instructor 3 times over, 3 different certifications, which was great because,
I was going to say, it ran you down a path that's so interesting, how entwined our lives are at a universal level, and, kind of how it comes full circle. But your knowledge just prior to meeting me was really what made all of this sort of come together.
Right. 100%. And it was really interesting because, I mean, I went to every kind of natural path, every kind of, health practitioner that wasn't necessarily Western medicine. And some people, helped a little bit. Some people helped in moments, and some people didn't know what to do with me. Because
it's so funny. I wrote in my notes the aha moment. So
there was the aha moment.
When you have that vast knowledge, and not to mention, you're living in Los Angeles, and for those of you who've never lived there, every guru expert on the planet either goes there,
lives here,
or has some kind of facility there, or
some kind the best of the best
of themselves there. So you really had it all at your fingertips.
Yeah, but and listen, there were some good people, but they weren't necessarily right for me. Yeah, so I, it took me on a different journey, and I wasn't sure that I'd ever get back to music and to what I wanted to do, because I was in such excruciating pain chronically, and I was always functioning at my best. I was functioning at 50% at my best. And that was me fighting for my body. I mean, everything. I tried everything nutritionally. I tried everything, holistically. I tried everything I could. And I did get healthier, and I did get up to 50% all on my own. But I still was struggling, and there would be weeks and days that I'd be 50%, and then suddenly I would turn the wrong way and my back would blow, and then I'm in bed for a month. Olivia, and it was, it was debilitating.
Is chiming in, and they're talking about their 18-year-old who has scoliosis. They're talking about some people have had fusions, and some people are like, wow, such a similar story. I mean,
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I feel bad, obviously. I don't want anyone to have that.
For both of us, I remember having this conversation with you, it almost becomes like a little shameful. You know, like you
Yeah.
have to start planning your life around your pain, or like, oh, I
Sure.
can't do that flight, or oh, no, that restaurant's 4 blocks away and I'll be crippled by the time I get there. So I want our audience to know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
I'm a magnet to people like this, or
Right.
there's a whole lot of us out there, because anytime I come up in conversation, immediately somebody wants to tell me their story, and it feels like
And I think it's a
everybody
bit
has
of both. You're definitely a magnet, but I also think that there's so many people that don't actually know what else to do, and then end up on, you know, prescription medications, and then end up functioning at 50% for most of their life. And it's hard. And no, the journey that I had, and the decisions I made weren't easy, because I really struggled. I think I probably would have been in less pain in the immediate had I had surgery. But then I've known clients, and I've had people who did have the surgery and were in worse pain. So
Yeah.
it really just depends on the body, and how your body responds. The other difficult part for me was that because I was such an athlete my whole life, I still didn't look very injured.
Yeah.
So people would look at me and not know why I was kind of barely moving across the street, and I'd get honked at. I mean, I grew such a patience for anybody that I look at who may not look like they're struggling with something. You never know. You don't know what's going on in
No,
somebody's
you
body,
don't.
and you need to have, the more empathy you can have for what people are going through, just the better you'll feel about yourself too.
Yeah,
But
100%.
everybody's got to struggle. Everybody's got to struggle. But anyway, so then basically, I mean, and you know, I said I became a Pilates instructor 3 times over, but I was working at physical therapy places because I needed people who understood that I couldn't necessarily show everything. Or there would be days where I would actually lay down. If you guys know what a Cadillac is, it's basically, imagine just a big bed of a piece of equipment. I would have to lay down and verbally instruct people, because I would come in with a back brace. But I understood the body so well, and people wanted to work with me because I would help them out of pain because I got it. And so they would come, they would have so much patience with me. I can't believe, thinking about it now, I'm just like, I can't believe that happened. But I would teach
It's,
entire
it
Pilates
feels like so
classes.
long ago.
It
Like
does feel
so
like
long
so
ago.
long ago. I would
Yeah.
teach entire classes of like 5, 6 people laying down on my back and just verbally, and they got really good at verbal cueing because
And also
I had to
faking
do
it.
that.
I mean, I think
Hmm.
you learn to fake your way. I mean, I feel like I was a therapist for a long time, standing on one leg, so I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
I want to stop you, Olivia. Sorry, sweetie. I
No,
want to
it's fine.
comment on what the people are saying, because you know, I think that everybody you know, tries to find those specialists, and it's like, you know, people always tell me, oh, you have to meet this osteopath, they're so great, and you have to meet this chiropractor, they're so great. And even you've told me, you know, about different people that you've
Sure.
used. And this topic that we're talking about tonight is so important for that reason,
Yeah.
because whatever treatments and therapies that people do, it's the biomechanics that make it stick.
Sure.
And you can't do one without the other. In fact, when Olivia and I first met, she came over, she watched what I was doing, and she knew it was what she needed. And when I evaluated her, I said, oh, honey, listen, this isn't a 1, 2, 5, 10, 30 session. You just need to move in with me.
Can I
And I was
tell people
serious.
can I tell people about our first session? Because
Oh, of course.
it was such an incredible experience, you guys. Ashley is such a rock star. I mean, she really is. But before the fascia blaster, and before, you know, all of what you know of Ashley Black Guru and fasciology and the things that that you know as Ashley Black, Ash was back and forth from Los Angeles and sometimes other parts of the country with athletes mostly. And so she had her young kids in Texas and then was flying here and there. And I actually was in the Viper Room, if you guys know, that's a music venue. And I met this gentleman who we're still friends today, but he was trying to take me out on a date, and I basically turned him down. But then he was
I'm glad
talking.
to know that I'm like part of the hookup line.
Oh, listen, nothing happened, but we stayed friends. But basically, long story short, we got in a conversation. He brought up Ashley's name, and he said that he could introduce me. So he got me an appointment with her. She happened to be in town the next night, and she was working on some athletes all day long and only had time at 11 p.m. only had time at 11 p.m. And my mom
used to do that. I'd work
I
till
know
2, 3 a.m. Yeah.
she would work all night. So because she wanted to help people, which was incredible, but and it blew my mind, blows my mind
And
still.
couldn't say no. Really
And
could
couldn't
not
say no.
when people were in
And
need.
and
Still
so
can't.
and she was working at a mutual friend of hers and Matt, who is the person who introduced me, at their penthouse in Doheny Towers. This is a very fancy place. And so basically I go up this elevator, it's 11 p.m. at night. I don't know what I'm in for. And I walk in and she's doing all this crazy manipulation, physical manipulation therapy and stuff that I hadn't really seen, but, akin to things that I had seen before, but, unique to her. And I'm watching this and she still works for like an hour. So at this point it's midnight and I'm thinking, this wonderful woman, but she's not going to have the energy or want to do this. No, she spent 3 hours with me. I was there from midnight till 3 a.m. and we just had an immediate connection, an immediate bond. And then she put her hand into my psoas and she's like, oh. And she did this. And she's like, oh, yeah, okay. This isn't going to help tonight because you have a lot going on. She said, you've got to come do an intensive. This is when she still had clinics. And so I went out the next week and we did an intensive for a week, I think. It was a week intensive. I worked with you and your practitioners for 2 hours twice a day. So that's 4 hours a day for 6 days. And then I left and it was like opening a can of worms. And then I called Ashley crying and we had such a bond at that point. She was like, you got to move out. You got to live with me. And so I quit my job and I moved to Texas. I think it was 2 weeks later.
Isn't that what everybody does? Just moves their patients into it?
Yeah, no one does that. I mean, maybe there's some wonderful other person that you need to meet that has done that, but no one does that. But I moved out and I lived with her and her family and I basically traded her my creative abilities and also my knowledge was right in line with the way that she trained. So she utilized that in me and we became a team. And then I trained people of hers and also did all the creative directing.
That's a big moment too. So I think about Olivia and everybody, first of all, is girl crushing on your body as they should. But I have to tell y'all, Olivia was head to toe lean and, beautiful, but she was entirely gummy. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, do I remember it? I felt the sensation I had was, and it's head to toe too. It wasn't just like one area of my body, it was head to toe. And it felt as though if I had a suit on, if my bones were like a suit and I had like 100 people pulling me in different directions all at once when I would walk. Actually the most painful thing to do for me wasn't getting on my reformer or doing a very gentle exercise. It was actually walking. Walking was actually the most difficult thing for me. And people don't realize what a complicated mechanic that is and how they can work there so hard and have all of the focus and all of the attention on their mechanics when they're working out. But then as soon as you walk, because we've been walking forever, we've been walking for most of our lives, it goes out the window. And that's how often we neurologically, unwind all of those good things we just did in exercise and all of those good habits we just did because we don't think about walking as something that can mess us up.
Or sitting. People don't think they need to learn how to.
Or standing.
Stand. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that became kind of the plight when I worked with Ashley with all of the celebrities or the athletes or, these very wealthy clients that we traveled the world with. And Ashley also, Olivia, by the way, hold on. I never wanted to. Yeah, go ahead.
I want them to understand how this happened. So Olivia basically moved in with me and really her journey to being completely empowered was probably 2 years. And I'm thinking about times I have some funny stories about you. I'm just going to throw a few out, but Olivia was swollen all over and she did not want to do a cold tub dump. And we were at her parents' house and the pool was cold. And
it was freezing. It was winter.
Got in the pool, drug her into the pool crying, right?
I was crying. I was just crying.
She was like, I don't want to do it. I just need you to work on me. But what did you do?
I needed to cool.
You needed to cool.
I needed to cool.
And also, Olivia is the most incredible. She's like a walking Pinterest. And she's like, look what I made for you. It's a gluten-free, vegan, no whatever muffin. And I'm like, is this all you're eating today? Because, honey, you need some muscles. I remember force feeding chicken to you as you cried and told me no.
I
Like,
did.
we're truly sisters.
We are. Yeah, we are.
And
We
then what
definitely are.
happened was, because Olivia had such an incredible knowledge of biomechanics coming into it, when I was just teaching her about her body, that's when her level went so much higher. And when I was living in LA all those years, I had so many celebrity clients that I couldn't handle them all. And there was
No,
no
I mean,
way
you
that
had
I
you had
could do,
kids.
yeah, I couldn't do the treatment and the biomechanics, but you have to have both for
You have to
that
have
long
both.
term. And somebody else just said, you know, the emotional side of it, I think all of that goes with it as well, just for the record, and the food and
Absolutely.
everything we're doing with New Year, New You. But we used to kind of tag team these people, and it was like I would show up and do my thing,
Do all
and
the
Olivia
treatment.
would show up and do her thing, and
Train
it was
them.
amazing. We really transformed some lives
It's a
in
lot
a
of fun.
very difficult market to make an
And
income.
what and just to, you know, also say, you guys, this was a journey and this was a career path that I'm so very grateful for, but never intended. Like this was something, music and performing has always been and continues to be my sole purpose. I'm so fortunate and really lucky that even though I got on such a crazy, you know, and a lot of people would say, like, you know, it could have like thrown your career, or suddenly it, you know, you stopped doing what you wanted to do or what you love. But what was so cool is, you know, Ashley's always supported me with my music and with everything, my entire, ever since we knew each other. The first moment we met and she made me sing for her. and
Well, I
and
also like Olivia. I mean, I remember you calling me and you're like, I got to play.
yeah,
And you're like, I'm terrified. It's a musical, and it was going to require actual
dancing,
practice and dance for the first time. And that was
tango,
like flash forward years. And
yeah.
I remember we talked a few weeks later, and you're like, you're not going to believe it, but like with the sauna and the blasting, and I think you were doing yoga, hot yoga. You're like, I'm making it through practice. So it
I'm
really
making it through
is
practice and
about
without pain.
transitioning you back to what you were meant to do anyway.
Exactly. So I don't think that I would ever be able to have picked myself back up and doing what I've always dreamt I wanted to do, and, you know, my passion, had I not met you and had I not gone through that journey. And really, it's a great story. It's so crazy because people work, you know, in this field their entire life and sometimes don't get to do some of the things that I've gotten to do when it was something that was totally unintentional.
They're all saying, we love her voice. So before you guys run down the Love Olivia trial, she is giving away your single, right? And
I am, yeah, it's in the link that you think you just provided.
yeah,
It's
I
a
put it in the
SoundCloud
link to
link.
the live feed. So you guys don't do it yet because you still have to learn the biomechanics. But
I have my
afterwards,
sound, yeah. It's a SoundCloud link and it's downloadable. As soon as you click on that, you can just, there's a little arrow and you push the arrow and then you can download. I enabled it and I'm going to keep it open for the next week until next Sunday.
oh,
And
that's
then,
awesome. So she's
and then if you,
donating
yeah,
that for our viewers. Which
for
song
all
is
your
it?
viewers, it's In My Touch. It's my new single.
Ooh,
It's
okay,
the new one
so
that
let me
just came
just
out.
tell y'all, In My Touch is a super girl power song.
It is. It is.
It's amazing.
It's
It has cuss
it's
words,
sexual
funny.
empowerment.
Yeah, it's all about empowerment, particularly for all the single ladies.
All the
Right?
single ladies, or ladies who just want to be real, but throw down. But yeah, I just released that single on the 28th of January, and I'm actually releasing my full album at the end of March. And whoever, I think you have a contest going, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So at the end of the contest, I will give my full album to whoever wins that, or the few
It's so
people who
great
win that.
because each guest is donating a little bit of what they do. So
Yeah.
It's not just me and the money and the trip to Costa Rica and the live
Right.
like Ashley. It's like everybody contributing. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited about all that. That's incredible. Okay,
I'll also
so we're
sing
gonna
it for you
jump
at the end
into
of today.
mechanics. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it. Are we doing reformer or are we doing wall?
Well, I think what I want to do is just talk briefly through scarecrow, robot, cheetah, Cirque du Soleil, and talk about how important that is.
Great.
So
I can
we
go
were
up against a
just
wall,
talking
but I'll
about-
have to take these out probably, just so you
You'll
know.
have to what?
I'll probably have to take these out in order for you to see me fully.
No, we're good for right now. We're going to still talk.
Okay. Okay.
I can't see you, just so you know. You're frozen, so we're going to have
Oh,
this is going to be a blind leading the blind, but that's okay because I have a feeling me and you are going to have exactly the same mechanics. So they're probably just going to get to see both of us. But I have to tell on Olivia, earlier today, we were just like chitty-chatting away, being sisters, and she started working out in front of me, and I was watching her, and I go, Olivia, stop using your back.
She was like, stop using your QL.
It's so hard when it's, you know, your body, even though you know it. So I think at some point we need to have, like, send in your video, let us analyze your movement. I did that for the heart butt, and it was crazy how bad the mechanics were. So,
am I still frozen, or can you see me now?
I mean, you've been frozen since the very beginning, so it's okay. They're
really? I can see you.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm
all right, girl. I know.
Okay, so let's talk about scarecrow, and I can demonstrate since you can see me. Okay.
Right.
This is one of the things
I can also do
so
it too.
important, because if you can't, like Olivia was saying, she had a triple twist in her spine. So if you can't even stand correctly, then how are you supposed to do CrossFit or run or even go walking, you know? So let's go through scarecrow, and you can just take me through the wall test. I'm not going to do it on the wall. I'm going to do an imaginary wall. But let's just go through from the feet up what the first thing they have to do is look for. And just so you guys know, what I'm taking you through is neurological training. So I don't care if you're, you know, just starting to move or whether you are a seasoned pro athlete. Every person that Olivia and I have ever trained together, we start them at the scarecrow, because
some of them hate it.
They hate it. They're like, how can 5 pounds be a workout? And I'm like, well, how are you sweating on my floor?
Right.
So I don't want you to think this has anything to do with intensity. This has to do with that one time in your life that you make the commitment to redo your biomechanics in order so you can fascia blast and do all the other components to make your fascia good, and then do all of this to make it stick. So
absolutely.
Olivia, you can take me through the scarecrow.
Lovely.
You just raise up my tripod.
I would love to.
I know we haven't done this in so long. It's going to be so fun.
It's kind of fun.
Okay.
We used to do this with so many people. Yes, we can see you. If you can maybe back up a little bit more so we can get closer to your lower legs.
Okay, go back some more.
Yeah. Yes, now I can see your feet. That's perfect. So everyone imagine that there's a wall behind Ashley. Behind her. We can do it from the front first, but we always start from the feet. And you want to look at the feet, and you want to make sure that you feel everything planted. Your big toe and your heel are in a straight line. You want your feet directly under your sits bones. So not wider than your hips, or not hip distance. You want to be sit bone distance. So those little bony protrusions that you feel in your butt when you sit, those bones and your heels should be in one straight line. So once you get that, what we do is we kind of check where our weight is distributed. So we rock back and forth from the front to the back, side to side. And this is actually easier to do without a wall. And you want to feel yourself land in the middle, directly down the center, as if there was a pole that went through the top of your head all the way out through your pubis and went to the ground. You want to feel like that's your center, right? So then from that point, you want to make sure, again, your toes are all touching the ground, your heels touching the ground. You feel a lift in your arch in your foot, but not so much that you're supinating, meaning making a bowl of soup with your feet. You don't want to do that. You want to keep your feet planted. Imagine that you take, and this is a little graphic,
Olivia,
but imagine.
I want to say this too. You know, you have people that say, I have no arch, or I supinate. That is not a permanent condition.
No.
You know, if you don't have an arch, you can give yourself an arch if you practice that. You can get rid of supination or pronation. Are you the person that wears your shoes and one side wears out? Like, that tells you a lot. And it's interesting because when you go to a professional, they're like, oh, you do this, or oh, you do that. When those are things that are changeable, you just have to practice them, right?
Those are symptoms of the problem. So basically, you want to imagine that there's a slight lift. Scoot back a little bit farther, Ashley, just a little bit. There, perfect. So you want to imagine that there's a little lift in your arch, but your entire foot is planted on the ground. A good way to do this, in the imagery that I like to use when I teach people this, is imagine through the center of your foot that you're just driving a stake through both feet, and that should ground you, right? So then we work our way up. So we've already centered ourselves, we've rocked forward, back, side to side, we've got a grounding through our feet, and then we want to soften our knees. Not bend, so you can bend and then feel what that feels like, and then
this is comfortable for me.
yes, I know. She's such a hyper. I do the same thing though. So many people do. Just feel like someone's just
around like this for years.
just feel like somebody took their finger and just poked you a little bit behind your knee, and you just have a soft knee right there. So then your feet should be grounded, your knees should be soft. Then we go to the pelvis. Imagine that it's a bucket, right? If you go forward, the water in your bucket is going to spill out. If you go backwards, the water in your bucket is going to spill behind you. You want the water in your bucket to stay in the bucket. So you want to be in the center. So that means your hip bones, or your ASIS, your anterior superior iliac spine, the ones that people often call headlights when you're working out, and Ashley's got her hands on them right now, they should be pointing directly forward, right? So you want the bowl of your pelvis to be directly underneath your rib cage and directly on top of your feet. You should feel a little bit of an arch in your lower back.
People have that problem, Olivia, just like you. Either they have a rotation, which
Yes.
is hard to see from the front, or they have like a rib shift like this. You know, or like you see a shoulder higher, but it's really, you know.
Right. There's a lot. That's why when you haven't done this before, doing it against a wall is so beneficial, because you can really feel where you have more struggles than other areas. So if we go back to where we were, so we did Ashley's feet. Ash, make sure your right foot is underneath you properly. I can see it from here. All right, so we've got, I said I can see your right foot. Make sure it's underneath you properly. Just check your feet.
I was doing good with I was working on my transfers.
You are doing good. Just make sure those feet are grounded. So Ash also has a tendency, because she has very tight feet and calves as well. So we went through the feet, we went through the knees, we did our pelvis, we did the bowl exercise where we rock back and forth, we land center. So if you did have a wall behind you, there should be a 4-finger space, your size fingers, between the wall and your lower back. That's another good way. Exactly, you can use Ashley's, that's my favorite ball. I use it every day. I really do. Because it keeps me balanced.
I need a foam roller.
You need a foam roller. Foam roller works too. But imagine that there's a wall behind her, and you've got 4 fingers between where her lower back is and the wall. There should be a space. That's how much arch. That's our natural curvature. And it's not actually an arch. It's called neutral spine. 2
fingers at the low back, 4 at the top.
I'm sorry. I totally messed up. I did mean to say that. I apologize. 2 fingers. And I even held up 4. It's been a little while since I've taught this. But anyway, so 2 fingers. My apologies, everyone. From your lower back to the wall. That's how you get neutral spine, right? So then we work our way up, and we've got our rib cage. This is often where it gets a little tricky, because people have rib shifts. Sometimes we have rotations. I had a rotation and a shift that I had to work on. A shift Ashley's going to demonstrate right now is like that. We call that typewriter. That's our nickname for it. And then we've got rotational shift, which if one rib was forward or behind, sometimes it shows up in the hips, sometimes it's in the ribs, sometimes it's both. So we want to make sure, once we've worked our feet to our knees to our pelvis, that we get our ribs right on top of our pelvis. Now, a lot of people, and I'm going to angle myself a little bit, do this. A lot of people have a bit more of a lordosis, or an arch, in where their ribs and their low back meet, and they do a lot of this. You got to pull those ribs down and feel those ribs directly on top of that pelvis.
It's
directly
also
on top.
like I see people, Olivia, that write in all the time, and they think that they have like a dislocated rib or some sort of weird thing. Like, it definitely should be boobs and then ribs in line with the pelvis. So if you have ribs here, and I know I have big boobs, but if your ribs stick out the same as your boobs, don't laugh. It happens. I see it on the beach all the time. I don't want to be like, let me grab those ribs.
I know. I just want to do this. And I mean, it's a big thing with men too.
The ribs are attached to the spine, you guys.
Yes.
So you can change the position of your ribs by changing the muscle memory. And that's really what we're talking about. That's what biomechanics is.
Exactly. And I personally have one side that because of my scoliosis, I have to constantly pull a rib down, pull it back. But I personally have one rib that's a little larger than the other. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but you'll know. You'll know because you'll feel your ribs on top of your pelvis, and you'll feel yourself sometimes feel a little tight in your chest, because then you have to lengthen and extend through your thoracic spine. And that's where it gets really tricky. So again, the 2-finger space, which again, apologies. That was my mistake. 2-finger space, lower back, and then we work our way up to the ribs. Once we're at the thoracic spine, if the wall was behind us, we'd want to feel our entire thoracic spine touching the wall. There should be no space between the wall. There should be no space between the wall and the thoracic spine, but it should feel flat. If we're rounding, then our whole 4-finger space between our neck and the wall is going to be all messed up, right? So we've got the ribs, and Ash, pull those ribs down a little bit more. Yes. So we've got the ribs on top of the pelvis, the knees soft, the feet are grounded, planted, and then we have our neck. And so sometimes what I would do is I would let the neck drop down, and then I'd pull it back up, or I'd turn left or right. And then I would feel the back of my head touch the wall. And if the back of your head is touching...
When I'm in alignment, Olivia, I feel like this. I feel like I'm going... That's how difficult that is
I know.
For me, because I've been working on my thoracic outlet and externally rotating and getting the shoulders into space. It's only just now that my head is on top of my body. I think I spent 2 years like this, just slightly.
Right.
Not a good look, by the way.
And the other thing is some of you might find that you can't do some of these things, that your ribs won't touch the back, that your head, you have way more of a finger space, and it has to do with how many years you've been standing or moving a certain way. So that's where the fascia blasting comes in, opening up the tissue so that we can actually get length and build strength to be able to hold ourselves in these positions. There's some weights. So basically, good. So we should be able to have a 4-finger space between, like I said, between your neck and the wall, with the back of your head touching the wall behind you. That would be ideal and perfect biomechanic alignment. None of us have perfect bodies. Everybody has a unique body. And so you have to find that for yourself. And until you start to open up your tissue and make sure that you are, as loose as possible. And sometimes when we have, like scoliosis, for instance, I have a really hard time pulling my rib back still.
Melody Bircher says, can you talk about rotated shoulders? Can someone post
like rotated forward?
A whole tutorial on, because this is my major issue. I'm like laying on a block, I'm working on my heart chakra, I'm doing the whole 9 yards. But I did a cupping and blasting for the shoulders, and I think I did it in the cupping and blading group. So I just want to make sure she gets that. So I know this is a ton of information overload, but we're really trying to impress upon you that if you're going, why can't I get rid of my cellulite on my right leg? It could be a rotation of the pelvis, or why, when I exercise, I get beyond bound. It could be because full chain, your body can't handle all the little missymmetries, So we're just on scarecrow from a neurological standpoint. This is what you need to be focused on before you even move. And I was just thinking, Olivia, like everything that you were telling me with my feet, I did a vinyasa flow today, and I kept lining myself up on the mat, and that right foot loved to do this, and my head loved to be forward. Anytime the movement got difficult, forward hip, and they were like lengthen, So this is something that applies to everything that you do. I even thought about it today when I was pushing the clutch on my car. Like I couldn't reach it, and so I was sort of doing that. And I was like, that's gonna jack me up. So I moved the seat and kept it moving. So
driving standard is difficult.
Always
revisit.
Go back and revisit like 100 times a day, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then so we're about to move into robot. Okay.
There's one more thing that I would love to tell them that I left out, which is the last piece. No, I did the head. I want to do the arms. So if you go and face this way again. So the last piece of that scarecrow, if you face the other direction, Ashley, so we see your profile. The last part of the scarecrow, after we've lined up everything in our heads against the wall, the last piece that I tell people is feel like there's lightning bolts through your fingertips and feel them reach through the floor, and then relax your neck after you do that. And that should give that long scapular depression feeling. You should feel your lats turn on when you do that, and your scapula depress, and then your neck relax. And that is the ideal scarecrow and the ideal biomechanic position for beginning any exercise, or walking, or sitting or standing. Those are all the checkpoints that you want to review.
Well, and just so you guys know, this is in the book. We have live feeds about the wall test that we just did. We even have my ICE DVDs.
Yes, I love those
away
too.
for free. They're online now. So
that's
all
great.
This information you can go follow up and learn. I was thinking about it when you said scapular depression and transverse abs, because that's what we talk about so much in ICE. But let's move them into robots.
Great.
From here.
Great.
Tell me what exercise we're doing and I'll do it.
What do you want to start with? Arms?
Yeah, let's just start with something really basic.
Okay, let's do some delt raises. So Ashley's got her. That is a hard one. All right,
Okay,
so scoot back a little bit so we can see your feet. So she's going to find that entire process. Yep, little Michael Jackson dance right there. And then if we're going to do anterior delt raises, remember every exhale we really want to feel those transverse abs. The transverse abs are always on. They're always working. So she's doing an anterior delt raise with a straight arm, soft elbows, of course. And she's going ever so slightly above her shoulders, but pretty much even.
You know what people do? They do this. They do this.
Yep, they lean the weight back.
Back.
And they lift their scapula. So scapula should always maintain depression, just like that. And the elbow should be soft. And you should feel, and Ashley, you could even, when she goes up, she can hold it for a 1 or a 2 count. So then you would hold it. So she would go up, she would breathe 1, 2, and then she would come back down. And you really want to feel, you can even isolate it and do one arm at a time. And then when you're doing the one arm, you can tap. So you're neurologically waking up the other muscle, or the muscle you're using, I should say, as you're tapping.
If you're starting off, one is easier.
Yes. If you've never done this before, one is easier. Then she would move into medial delt, which you always want to keep. So that would be a T shape. And I like to keep my arms in my periphery. It just keeps me aligned a little bit more. And she's going ever so slightly again above her shoulders. This is very, very basic robot biomechanics. And she's feeling her scapula as her arms are going up. The scapula should be depressing, just like that. If you notice that her neck.
I've ever trained incorporated the traps.
Yeah, there should be no traps here.
Stop it.
Right. If you have a problem with straight arms, sometimes I do because I have very loose joints. I will bend at the arms and I will do it this way, where I go up.
Olivia, I remember doing this with soup cans with you because
this is the truth, guys.
2.5 pound weight. Remember that?
Yes. Yes, of course I do. So I would bend here and then I would go up like that and then I'd come back down. If you can't do straight arms. Then I would go, and this one's tricky, and sometimes I teach this one arm at a time, or sometimes I won't have people go into the squat. But if you're comfortable with the squat, then I go into posterior delt. So Ashley would go, the best way to show it would,
posterior delt?
Yeah, so the best way for her to show that would be in a profile. There you go. And if you notice, Ashley's in a nice squat with a hinge at the front hips, and she's gonna raise her arms up. What's really important is that you're not focused on squeezing the rhomboids or squeezing your butterfly wings or scapula, whatever you recognize them on. Yep, we're not doing that. What we're doing is we're opening our arms up and feeling the back of the shoulder, which is the posterior delt working. That's posterior. So that's anterior, medial, and posterior delt. It's very basic shoulder exercises that help with shoulder stability. And always, always, always we would engage our transverse abdominis, transverse abs every exhale. As we do this, we would feel the corset pull in towards our spine, but the spine not move. Yeah. All right. Biceps. What do you want to do?
I look like I'm ready for biceps.
She looks ready for biceps, so let's go for it. It's the exact same position, so nothing has changed. Now, obviously, there's many ways to do a bicep curl. You could have the hands parallel at the sides. You can have your hands just like Ashley. We can do one where it's crossing over. So we've got one that's coming up to the front, one coming to the side. There's a lot of ways to do bicep curls, but no matter which way you do it, what really matters is that you keep the rest of your body aligned in that scarecrow position that we first spoke about. And that's very basic and very simple.
As you are exercising and it gets harder, your little cheaters come out.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like I'm not doing much, but I promise you, if you go down to like really light weights, you're going to find that maintaining the posture is actually harder than the lift. Right?
Well, a lot of people will lift like 25. I see women lifting 25-pound biceps in each hand and throwing their bodies into it so that they can lift that much weight. You don't need to lift that much weight. You need to keep your body nice and still and just see what your arm itself can do. And you might have to isolate to one arm at a time. You might have one arm that's stronger than the other, and you have to, you know, do more reps on one side. Then we would go into triceps, which if you're using free weights like that, I would go into the same squat that she was in when she was in posterior delt, just like that. She would pull her elbows up so that they're even with the backs of the ribs. And you want to pinch your elbows into your rib cage as close as you can to keep that alignment in the shoulders. And then you extend. And on every extension, you would hold for at least a second. Making sure that you're raising the arms evenly. I notice a lot of people have more range of motion with one side than the other, and they'll raise one weight higher than the other. You really want to watch that your shoulders are both even, that your elbows are at even height, so that when you're doing that, you're working them out the same. Just like that.
I also want to say that, you know, we're showing a very simple version of robotics.
Very simple.
Muscles in the body. But you know, when people are like, well, what do you think of this? Or what do you think about that? At the end of the day, when you're designing exercise programs, it's about where's the resistance coming from. With weights, your resistance is coming from gravity. You know, with cables, it's coming from above. With a Pilates reformer, you're going to lay on your back. But it literally is the same joint action. And I think that in training world, people just get way too complicated, you know, and do 10 things at once instead of just focusing on actually getting the body to fire properly.
And I think it's totally possible, and I think everybody can enjoy and do those things that they like to do in those very difficult exercises. But what we're talking about is if you struggle, if you've got areas that you're having a hard time with, if you feel like you just can't get, you know, past a certain point, you might have to break it all down, look at your mechanics, go through Scarecrow and do some very basic exercises, because that will reveal so much to you when you're learning about your body and how to properly exercise. And that's why it would be a struggle sometimes when I would have to retrain athletes or whatnot. There's another way to do triceps. Because we would break it down and we would do simple exercises like this until I watched their mechanics look great, as perfect as they could. And then once their mechanics looked really good, I felt like they were capable of pulling that knowledge into the more difficult exercise. But
yeah, they would want to go straight to the track and sprint.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, hold on, why don't we learn how to do this first?
Exactly. You got to walk before you can run. You got to crawl before you can walk. And then, you know, because no one talks about mechanics when we're kids, we just teach ourselves how to walk, how to move, how to stand. And nobody really goes back and breaks that down for us. So that's what we're trying to do. So I know that all of you are like, well, that's really simple exercises. I've seen it. And, you know, I've done all of those in the gym. Yes, we know. We want you, we want you to think about your mechanics as you're doing them.
Look cool when they exercise.
Of course, I do too.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't always do these things because I know my mechanics, but even Ashley called me out today. She's like, girl, you're using your QL. And I'm like, oh no, I am, you're right. And I had to break down the exercise a little bit and not do it to the, you know, cool extent, like the full.
High and cheating.
I was kind of,
We're tracking like 7:55, so I wanted to go ahead and move into just a little bit of cheat. I know it goes by so fast, right?
Wow, I haven't even sung.
I know. Olivia's going to close with a song, so stick around.
If you guys want, we don't have to.
Cheetah, because I intentionally put cheetah in there as the next level because it's cross patterning in the sagittal plane. So this is
Sure.
your walking, this is your running, this is most of our functional movement. But let's just go
Right.
through a little bit of cheetah. So basically, once you can move every body part independently, that's why we call it robot, like one part at a time, then
Yeah.
you can start to do multiple joints in a single plane of motion. And then once you have all that, then you can do multiple joints in a multiple plane. And sadly, when you walk into a gym, the first thing you see is people doing the fourth level, which is
Yeah.
like if you do this, which is what my trainer did on first day with me, this,
that's multi-chain.
that's 15 different biomechanics.
Yes,
Okay?
minimum.
So let's take them into cheetah. Cheetah would be like the elliptical with your feet grounded.
Oh, yeah.
Cheetah doesn't have impact. Fascia hates impact, particularly
I see
incorrect impact.
so many people do the elliptical wrong or running. It pains me.
I mean,
Pains
I
me
think
because
this is the best cheetah right here. This and
Yeah.
the legs.
Yeah. So when you're on the elliptical, and I wish you had one to show, but you really want to feel like, you know, those paper dolls that had that had kind of just the one joint at the legs, and they would just go back and forth. It just would look like it would swish back and forth, but nothing else would move. That's what you want to imagine when you're on the elliptical. The center of your body, your torso, should stay in alignment. There should be no shifting. You shouldn't see your shoulders shifting left or right and your hips shifting left or right. You should feel like you are grounded and center, and the same that we talked about, that pole going through the top of the head. You should feel like your entire body is on a carousel and just your legs and arms can move forward and back. That's how an elliptical should work. And where you're pushing through, and the chain that you're pushing through is through that heel, and you're pushing back, calf, hamstring, glute, pushing forward, using your quadriceps, pushing back, hamstring, glute, pushing forward, quadriceps, right? And you should feel that in each leg as you're doing that. And with your arms are just really there for the momentum. If you've got one of those ellipticals that you actually push weight, yeah, you're doing work with your shoulders, you're doing work with your arms.
That's
but
why I put the Gazelle machine, which I know everybody makes fun of, in my store, because it's really
love
a
that
great
machine.
way with the legs going like this. You know why?
Yeah.
It takes out an extra joint with the
Yes.
knees, and you can just
Yes.
swing the legs. So if you have hip or knee issues, a great way to learn cheetah is that way. I call cheetah the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun part of the training, because
Right.
on Wizard of Oz, remember how she rides up and she's like, dun, 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 but she's flying. That's the way we should look on the elliptical machine.
Right.
Like the You'll never
Flying
forget
Wizard
it
of
now.
Oz. Never. I picture the carousel with the horses. How,
Yes. Well,
and
and
just,
I think carousel's good when we go to talk about like a squat. You know,
Sure.
even if we break one plane, you know, it's still that symmetrical movement, you know, particularly like, you know, a sumo squat. But
Yes.
regardless, we don't change the spine. You know, and
No.
I think that's what people do is even if they're hip flexing, they, you know, do some sort of something different with the spine.
I also notice a lot of people.
Double joint,
Yeah.
right?
I also notice a lot of people when they're doing sumo squats or things like that, knees falling in, but not just knees, because a lot of people will put bands, or I put bands around my legs when I do sumo squat. And that helps me have awareness of where my knees are going. But what's most important with these squats that I watch all of these influencers, I watch all of these athletes that are showing things on Instagram or stuff like that, is their feet. I constantly see feet lifting. I see toes curling. I see things moving that I'm like, okay, well, you're not accessing the full chain then. Because if your feet are grounded, you're going to get that full neurological chain reaction from heel all the way to glute, to your brain, through your spine, right? Squats are so good for you. Squats really are. But if your feet are lifting up, you're breaking that chain. You're breaking that pattern.
Well, and you know what? If you just do this tomorrow, walk into a gym or just watch people walking down the street, 9 out of 10 of them are going to have one foot that goes out more than the other. And if you walk like that, squat like that, elliptical like that, I mean, what do you think is going to happen to the hip and knee and ankle? That could present as low back pain on that side or the other side, like compression can cause the disc.
Or
hip pain, inner knee pain, ankle pain,
meniscus wearing down. You can have, you know, eventually maybe you run like that and then you have an ACL tear or an MCL tear. You've got, you know, crepitus in the knees. Then you've got, you know, ankle issues, whatever the case. And then people are like, where did this come from? I was fine for the last 20 years running, or fine for the last 10 years doing this. And it's like, it builds.
All of a sudden, and I'm like, no, honey, it was not.
No, it built over years. It built over years. And the more that we have knowledge and the more power we have, the more capable we are of taking this into our own hands and knowing it's not a quick fix. It took me years. I still have to have awareness of it, because I mean, and I am unique in some ways because I do have joint issues, and I do have, you know, I do have things that are unique to me that make it more challenging, but everyone has injuries. Every body goes through something. So even if you have the most healthy, most capable body, you still have to look at yourself and be like, okay, where am I moving from? Am I moving from the right place?
Olivia, you and I do it as a check, like,
yes,
many times a day, particularly
absolutely
when we're exercising. So let's take them into that, because I think almost everything that you and I do now, because we graduated neurologically, is the circ movements. And all we mean is that circ could have something where you are in the sagittal plane, you're in the frontal plane, you know, you're doing multi joints, multi movements. And it's amazing because, like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, I do it from that same space. And that's why, because everybody's like, Ashley doesn't like CrossFit, Ashley likes yoga. That is not true. If you have perfect symmetry, CrossFit away. Have you guys seen the boot camp style training? My problem is when you're leaving the ground, breaking plane, doing multi-joint movement wrong. And with yoga, you're just usually, particularly poses, you're moving slower, so you have a chance to correct it. So I'm not anti-runner, I'm not anti-CrossFit, I'm not anti, you know, whoever's boot camp, or dance program, whatever. If you do it with these mechanics, so you can take me through anything multi-chain. Like, how about a squat with like side bending or something like that, where they can just get the
Or how about we go from do you want to go from a plank, plank into a side plank, or you want to do squats?
I can do plank to side plank. Can you see the mat?
Yeah.
Where it is?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Let's do a center plank into a side plank. And actually, can you move a little bit more towards the camera? Move to your left. Yes. There she is. All right, so she's in a plank, and we want to feel those hips in a nice alignment with the shoulders when we're in plank. I hate when I see people with their hips so low and they've just got so much arch in their lower back that that they can't even feel or access their abs. So we're here, we're pulling our abs against gravity. We're pulling them up like a corset into our spine. And from this position, Ashley's going to lift her left arm, and she's going to come into a side plank. From the side plank position, she's going to reach with that left arm over her head towards the camera and arch her body, feeling her obliques contract, coming back over and into that forward plank. So that would be a slow kind of yoga-esque movement, multi-chain pattern. Exactly. Exactly.
Right? So it's like you're putting it together. To me, full chain movement is nothing more than the parts of robot and cheetah combined. You know, so so say the movement is what I'm about to do. I still have my feet in line with my hips. I'm still in neutral spine. And I start with the single joint, which takes me into the squat. Then I'm going to add shoulder flexion. Then I'm going to add rotation. Then I might change and cross pattern. Then I might side bend. Then I might rotate. So when we look at someone going like that, that is actually really complex on our nervous system, right?
Yep.
It's so
I feel
funny.
like we
They're
got through
talking
all
about
of
it
it.
being snowy.
It is a bit. I feel like we've kept them. We've
Yep,
done
we've
our
kept it
hour.
late. It was a
We've kept our
long one,
late.
guys. But
I can
I
come back
think,
again.
yeah, I think this one's super important. I'd love it if you guys would share it and
Sure.
recirculate. This is
And
so
ask
funny. I mean, we
questions.
talked about this earlier today, Olivia. Elizabeth Marzano says, what is the proper form for snow shoveling? And that is seriously not a joke. If you're
No.
shoveling snow, and if we were shoveling snow, I promise you, we would be lined up with our feet symmetrical. You know, I don't know how to shovel snow. I'm from the South, but I'm going to make it up. You know, but you would still have the neutral footing, and
Right.
it would still be done with proper movement.
I actually have to focus on proper movement every time I clean my house. Anytime I use a mop or I'm scrubbing or anything like that, I have to think about rotation because I can very easily throw my back out. Even, you know, not so much anymore now. It would take a lot, but if I'm not paying attention, I could at least irritate it. And it's not worth it. It's not worth
No,
it
it's
for me.
really true. I mean, like sweeping is super intense. I actually was on feed with a lady who told me that she just started cleaning houses. And I'm like,
Right.
that's extremely demanding. And by the way, you know, it absolutely can jack you up. I always say whatever your
Sure.
job is all day long or however you move all day long is your sport. And you train
Absolutely.
for that like a pro athlete. Okay, on that note.
You guys, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Ash.
Out, so, Olivia,
I'll just sing right here.
Are you going to do the radio version?
The radio
you guys
version.
Go download the one.
Download the song. Here's a verse. I'll give you guys a verse. I feel like it's going to sound really bad with my. Does this sound okay?
You can
I'll
go
just,
earplugs out if you want.
I'll just sing.
I'll turn my volume down.
I love a particular breed. No one compares to me. Give me your eyes if you like what you see, and let's go on this ride. And I feel you, and you'll feel me too. And it feels so good in your touch, in your touch. Don't with me, 'cause I don't got the time to get free, and I just want to feel you deeply in my touch, in my touch. So that's a little sample of my song that I'm giving you guys. I was gonna do it on piano, but we've run over time so much. I just thought I'd give a quick sample, and I've got to go anyway.
Just go download it. It's a great blasting song. It's basically saying, "Don't F with me. I don't have time for your crap." It's awesome. Go download it.
Go check it out. Let me know.
She'll be around in the advanced fitness group, and you guys definitely soak up her knowledge. Rewatch this 100 times if you have to. Love you guys so much. See you next week, and I don't even know the topic, but I'm sure somebody will post it. I'll go back and answer
It'll get posted
later tonight. See you guys all soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.